What I first want to point out is how the NDS is referenced in the 2012 IBC. For structural design, it appears in two locations, in 2306.1 for allowable stress design, and in 2307.1 for load and resistance factor design. Please be aware that if you're going to look for the standards, the name has now changed. It's the American Wood Council NDS or AWC NDS instead of AFPA NDS. And then for fire design, chapter section 722 of the 2012 IBC allows the calculated fire resistance of exposed wood members and wood decking is permitted in accordance with chapter 16 of National Design Specification for wood construction. So those are the code references that trigger the 2012 NDS. Now, the scope of the NDS remains completely unchanged between the 2005 edition, which was the prior edition, and this current edition, 2012. And it defines the method to be followed in structural design with wood products, visually graded lumber, mechanically graded lumber, structural glue laminated timber, timber piles, poles, prefabricated wood I-joist, structural composite lumber, and wood structural panels. And it also covers connection design. In 2012 NDS, this is the chapter layout. There's 16 chapters, exactly the same number of chapters as in 2005, and the exact same layout. So the chapter naming and ordering remains unchanged from 2005. Now, the most extensive revisions in the 2012 edition happen in Chapter 5, Glued Laminated Timber, Chapter 6, Round Timber Poles and Piles, and Chapter 12, Split Rings and Shear Plates. However, I think the most significant revisions in terms of impact on your designs probably happen in Chapter 11 in the fastener section, Chapter 13, Timber Rivets, Chapter 3 on bracing, and also Chapter 2 if you're doing LRFD design for compression perpendicular to grain. And based on the poll results, I'm not sure that's going to be of much interest to folks, so I'll move through that part quickly. Now the NDS 2012 appendices, again, 14 appendices, the exact same order and naming as in the 2005 NDS. The most extensive changes occurred in Appendix E, local stress and fastener groups, and Appendix N, load and resistance factor design. The changes in Appendix N are significant for the compression perp issue I mentioned previously. And there's also a very small change that happens in Appendix F, which I'll highlight later, which will impact your designs for stability when using glue laminated timbers. Now, in the 2012 cycle, I counted that over 150 pages received some form of change. And the 2012 edition was really marked with a lot of effort put into editorial cleanup. And I don't plan to spend much time on the editorial cleanup in this presentation. I just want to make you aware, though, of what some of those changes were. And when you hear this list, you're going to understand how it could be pervasive through many pages of the standard. Number one, when was changed to where in many locations? It's a committee member that felt strongly that where is more appropriate standards language. When refers to a point in time, and where is when there may be occurrence of something. And so this happens on many, many pages in the NDS. We will not try to highlight those at all. Also, there's clarification of terminology throughout the standard. The primary benefit to the user, I believe, is in table headings and table footnotes. The table headings and footnotes now more clearly describe the information contained in the table and coordinate better with the text in the standard. There's consistent use of terminology related to the table headings and footnotes. And then within each chapter, there's more consistent layout of each chapter. One example is each chapter in the 2012 NDS now begins with a scope section. And then throughout the standard, is permitted is changed to shall be permitted in many cases. Now there are also many changes that are actually quite extensive and cover many paragraphs and clauses that appear technical, but they're not purely editorial changes, but they're like editorial changes. These include cases where we have the LRFD format conversion factor. I'll get into that a little bit later. And glue-lam shear stress factor and flat use factors. There are also other cases where information has been added to the NDS based on information already contained in commentary or in key reference documents referenced from the NDS that really don't present a technical change in the practice for design of wood, but merely bring it forward into the standard. I'll highlight some of those areas as we go through.